Ladies and gentlemen, hello there, and welcome to another edition of the MrWarrenHayes Show, and I am, of course, Mr. Warren Hayes. I am the captain of the ship upon which you are all a part of, upon which we are all sailing down. And unlike some other crafts, I will not run my ship into another passenger ship, injuring people in the process. No, I will steer us into dry dock with aplomb and a certain level of finesse. I have no idea what I'm talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the MrWarrenHayes Show. We are going to be talking about wrestling. It's not a nautical themed show. We're not talking about boats or skiffs or mizzen masts. We're talking about wrestling. Specifically, we're going to be talking about the edition of Monday Night Raw that occurred tonight, which is on June 3rd, 2019. Already the month of June, fellas and fillaettes. And that actually means that half of the year is gone. And I did mention that we're doing this, that we're talking about the show that happened tonight because, unless you don't know, unless like this is literally the first time that you have popped into the show, I do these live every Monday night, 11:30 p.m. Eastern. I hop on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes, and I do this live show for a bunch of people who actually do think it's a good idea to come and join me on my show and show up and be a part of this thing, because we do have a live, very lively, yet friendly, yet a little cuckoo live chat. And we have a whole bunch of people here. Again, this evening we have, for instance, of course, Kristen Ashley. How you doing? Anthony Suter from Spark to Death is here as well. Metal 2006. Brian Payne is here as well. Maven Glean, Dave Profesky as well. Michael Stepney. We have let's see here. That can't be it. There's more people here. We have Joe Anthony, of course, who's here. We have Hawkeye, who's here as well. We have Ryan Smith, who's here as well. Shane Haas. Lots of friends of the show here. Lots of names. If you come here regularly, these are all names. These are all regulars, or people that we know, and therefore create these situations, these wonderful, wonderful situations where everyone can just have a good time because we all know each other. We're kind of like when you go hang out at the rec center, only cooler. Oh, so there we go. So folks, so we have the live show going, and if you're watching right now, or if you're watching on demand as well, on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes, that's fantastic. Whichever way you want to, you decide to watch the show, that's amazing. But all I would ask, the only thing I would ask, is if you took just a second, a moment of your time to give this video a thumbs up, because that kind of stuff really, really does help the show. So I hope you find it in your hearts just to thumbs up the video. But you know what? And here's the thing, and I want to be very, very clear about this. I don't want to give the impression that I'm necessarily dragging you into here to try and get you to like my videos. Absolutely, because you don't have to. Here's the thing: if you want to help out, that's a good thing. But if I do a show that does, you feel, Warren, this wasn't up to I didn't like it. It wasn't up to my standards, your standards, whatever. You can give it a thumbs down. The thumbs down is there for a reason, and it's democratic. It's the way our systems work here in the Western world. You're entitled to do the dislike button, and just go ahead and do it. But if you do want to support, please, God damn it, do it. And then again, maybe you're not even watching this. Maybe you're like, YouTube, what the fuck's a YouTube? No, maybe not. Well, maybe you are saying that, and then you'd be, but I can't judge anyone. Just because I know about something doesn't mean and I should expect everybody to know about it. You know, so I'm not going to judge you if you don't know what YouTube is. I won't judge you overtly or publicly. But let's say you're not watching this on YouTube. God damn, that was a roundabout way to get to this. Maybe you're listening to this on your favorite podcast app, which is cool because the Mr. Warren Hayes Show is also available on all podcast applications. Google, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Podbean, Podcoin, Castbox, Himalaya. It's all, look, just go out there and explore. Type in Mr. Warren Hayes, subscribe. Give us a like, a review, however it works over there. Those are always super appreciated, and they also help as well. So it's just little ways in which you can help. Just wee little ways. Tomorrow, of course, is Tuesday, so that means I'll be back right here on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes to do my SmackDown Live recap show, 10:30 p.m. Eastern time, so be sure to check that out as well. Wednesday means that I'm over on SmackDown. SmackDown will be done. I'll be over on FightfulSelect.com, which is the premium service to Fightful.com, combat sports news website where you get your wrestling news as well. You can get boxing and MMA too, but you can also get your wrestling. You go to Fightful Wrestling and you get all that there. Fightful Select's the premium service. You buy in a little. You show your support. You give the site like a few bucks and you get a whole bunch of extra content, a whole plethora of extra content as well, including my own podcast, 205 Live, NXT UK recap show. You get Sean Ross Sapp, who does the Fightful report every week as well. You got Steven Jensen, who does the Weekender, non-WWE programming, is all covered there. And retro pay-per-views. Sean and I recently reviewed the first Nitro, and that was a lot of fun. And that Sean just released the video today. Probably one of my favorites that I've done over on Fightful Select. That was a lot. That was a lot of fun. So go check those out. FightfulSelect.com. Another thing you should check out is a little thing called belltobells.com. It is a website run by one Kristen Ashley. She's the editor-in-chief there, and she has assembled a fantastic team of people over there to write about what? You say women's wrestling. That's all the site is about, and it is fantastic. Bunch of talented people there, outstanding folks who are also, a lot of folks are here in the chat as well. Very, very smart, beautiful, opinionated people. But it is the best place if you want to have some women's wrestling coverage. Do exclusively that over there. And I am pleased to announce that very, very soon our AV club is going to be in full effect. If you'd like to see what kind of podcasts and video content that we have on the way, I suggest right now that you head up, you go to YouTube, and you not necessarily to YouTube, but you do go. Here we go. You go to tinyurl.com/belltobells. That's BELLTOBELLES. Hit that up at tinyurl.com/belltobells, and that'll take you to the YouTube page. Subscribe there, so you'll already be able to get your videos. And we're also in the process of spreading out into the world as a podcast as well. Over on anchor.fm, we have our podcast page set up. We're also available on Stitcher and Spotify right now. We're branching out into all sorts of other podcast apps as well. So be sure to look for Bell to Bells there as well, as we've got some exciting stuff, and not just, I'll be doing some stuff, but not just myself. We got some cool things in the works. It'll be a good time. So be sure. And if you're like, Warren, I can't remember all of these things you want me to do. Perhaps if there was one place where you guys could promote all these things that I could follow just in one place. That way I know whenever you guys do something new, then I know what to do. Well, then go to Twitter and just look for Bell to Bells. Relax, chum, imaginary person who I think is having an anxiety attack because I'm throwing too many URLs at him or her. Just go to Twitter. Twitter.com. Look for us at Bell to Bells. Follow us there. That way you will be sure that you'll be getting every single last detail event that has to do with Bell to Bells. Also this Thursday on Smart to Death, youtube.com/Smart to Death, we're going to be wrapping up the Blazer Bros and if I'm not mistaken as well, Kelsey from the Two-Face podcast is going to be joining us. Joining Anthony Suter. I'll be there with Jonathan Pilquist, JPQ of No Particular Angle podcast. We're going to be wrapping up the Best of the Super Juniors. We're going to be giving our final impressions because this one's coming to it's wrapping up, folks. The Best of the Super Juniors, New Japan's going to be, again, a good time to talk about something else other than WWE. That's always fun. And it's a good time with John and Anthony. Kelsey's fantastic as well. We're going to have a good time. It's going to be a good time. And that's going to be on the Smart to Death channel, youtube.com/SmartToDeath, or follow Anthony because he's a solo guy now. He, perhaps you've heard. Anthony is, he's flying on his own. He's been uncaged. His no longer are his wings clipped. He now soars like a beautiful cardinal, a streak of crimson across a blue sky of hope. That is what Anthony Suter is. Smart to Death. So be sure to follow there and come listen to us talk about all sorts of nonsense regarding Juice Robinson this Thursday, among other things. So that'll be a good time. Oh, look at that. Blaine Mendoza, the world's most handsome mod, is in the chat. He just popped in. It's good to see you, Blaine. And it's going to be a good time. Speaking of good times, that was not what happened on Raw tonight. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. This was it wasn't awful. It was just, it's one of those. It's a go-home show, right? Essentially, a go-home show to a pay-per-view that I just don't care about. I don't care about this show. Super Showdown. I just don't. Anyway, the lead in here, let's just get this out of the way right now. Because I'm just going to get it out of the way right now. This weekend, Stephanie McMahon took to social media, and she started talking about how Brock Lesnar was disrespecting the Money in the Bank briefcase, right? Because he wasn't fixated on what he because he wasn't fixated exactly on where he should cash in, and he was being an asshole, essentially, is what she was saying, and that there had to be some corporate intervention, that the McMahon family was going to have to do something this Monday on Raw to remedy the situation. And then Paul Heyman, over the course of the weekend as well, went onto social media saying basically that he guaranteed that that Brock Lesnar was going to cash in on Monday. Now this, of course, is stupid. It's stupid. It's stupid because that is not knowing when someone is going to cash in the Money in the Bank briefcase is the exact purpose of the Money in the Bank briefcase. It is to create surprise and spontaneity and moments of unexpected occurrences. Yes, you can gift that. This is the thing. This is really the thing here, which is really, really moronic. Because, okay. Not too long ago, we had heard, that over the past couple of years, WWE had been disappointed with how the Money in the Bank briefcases turned out, and with reason. 2 years ago, it was Baron Corbin who had the briefcase, and that all fizzled out because he apparently ran into some trouble and he got depushed. Remember, right? He got squashed, essentially. His cash-in never worked. That's one thing. The second thing that happened last year was Braun's weird cash-in, where he came in at SummerSlam and just hung around and then decided that he was going to cash in on a specific date. And that just takes away the entire sheen of it, right? And now they're doing the exact same thing this way. This year, I really, really thought that it was a fantastic idea to put it on Brock Lesnar, because Brock Lesnar being booked as the beast he is, having him just walk around with the briefcase and being able to pop up at any given moment is absolutely insane. And of course it creates paranoia. It makes you wonder, what's going to happen next, because it's Brock. It was the perfect way for to keep Brock interesting. But then they decide to we're gonna plan this out. The McMahons are gonna show that he's showing. The McMahons are gonna cut in here and say, no, you're showing disrespect to the briefcase. But that's essentially what he should be doing. That is just going around and popping his head out. It's like, hey, am I going to cash in? Am I going to cash in? Nah, not today. And then walk back. That's what it's for. And I was thinking this was a fantastic way if they want to use Brock, and if Brock is still in a limited date engagement thing. Well, I mean, that's a fantastic, absolutely fantastic way to do it, because it's a fantastic way to do it because because then you can keep him off television. It stays storyline. And then when he does pop back, then people get legitimately excited because they know that the briefcase is there. And then we as fans, then we get to speculate. You're like, oh, okay, well, this pay-per-view is coming up. Is Brock going to cash in here? Yes, no, yes, no. I don't understand why this was even considered as an angle, because it doesn't make sense on a purely storyline sense, or at least in relation to what the Money in the Bank briefcase is. But then it doesn't even make sense to try and, because it doesn't make sense in trying to keep interest in something. You know what I mean? Man. So, that's just something. That's just something. I'm going to move on. But this was hanging over the entire evening, right? Where it's like, oh, when is Brock going to cash in tonight? First of all, will he even show up? That's the first thing. Anyway, but let's start doing our segment by segment thing. First and foremost, Roman Reigns comes out, and he hits the ring because he has a match coming up. He has a match with the Usos versus Drew McIntyre and the Revival, which I thought was an excellent idea. I really, really dug this idea, and I even thought that this was the best thing that they could do tonight. I really did. Because it's a relatively fresh match, and it's something that we do want to see. Roman Reigns and the Usos together a lot more. That's fantastic. And the Revival being put in these big match situations, sure, why not? And Drew's fantastic. The Roman comes out, but he starts to cut his promo, but Shane McMahon comes out. And he cuts him off and he says, well, I can't wait to shut you up this weekend, this Friday. And he keeps on rambling about how great he is, the usual stuff. And Roman tells him to shut up. And he says he's going to beat up Drew in 2 weeks. He says he's going to, after he's done beating Shane up, he's going to beat up Drew in 2 weeks at Stomping Grounds. That's odd because no matches have been announced yet. But, maybe Roman has an inside scoop. Maybe he can make his matches himself and just decide, like, right here, I'm deciding. I'm chop. Yeah, okay. Then Drew comes out with Shane and he says he's going to end Roman at Stomping Grounds. So they're all in agreement. Everyone was aware except for us. And the match starts. The match doesn't start exactly there because while Drew is talking, it distracts Roman long enough for the Revival to attack Roman from behind, coming out from the audience. And the Usos then come in for the save, and then everybody starts staring at each other, and then the match starts. It starts with Dash Wilder eating a super kick. He rolls to the outside with Scott Dawson. And while they're on the outside, they eat double dives from the Usos. So then we, of course, cut away from commercial because things are getting way too exciting. Back from commercial, Jimmy is kicking the shit out of Dash Wilder. Dawson and Drew distract Jimmy Uso, though, and that allows Dash to hit a drop kick. And the heels get pretty much in control here. Drew comes in and starts chopping on Jimmy. Does his deadlift suplex, which is always really cool. Covers, but only gets 2. The heels go to work for the rest of the match here on Jimmy, who is your babyface in peril for the match here, is entirely cut off. And they do some really fantastic heel work, all 3 of them together. And especially, points to the Revival here for really acting the heel team here, like doing heel shit on the babyfaces and showing off that really crisp dynamics that they have. Dash and Scott together. It was fantastic. It was really, really some fantastic stuff. They do the, I can almost reach my partner here on the corner, but you're holding me back and I'm just fingertips away spot thing that I don't like, but that's really my main gripe of the match, which isn't so bad. It also leads to Jimmy eating one of Scott Dawson's spine busters, so it couldn't have been all that bad. Back from commercial again, Roman actually got the hot tag during the commercial. All right, so what the fuck? Roman super punches Drew and Dash. Shane then trips Jey Uso, who was going up on the top rope, and that infuriates Roman, who goes after Shane on the outside. And while he's on the outside, Drew claymores Roman. Jimmy eats a shatter machine from the Revival. Then Drew, who's the legal man, goes back into the ring and claymores Jey Uso, covers him and gets the win. And after the match, Shane McMahon is, he's in the ring and he starts directing traffic. He gets the heels to bring Roman back into the ring. The Revival hit a shatter machine on Roman. Drew hits a claymore, and Shane McMahon hits a spear. Okay. Well, I mean, here's the thing. This is what it was good for, right? This was basically what this match served for. Served to be. It served to it served to bring attention to the fact that Shane, knows some moves and he's smart because he has an entourage and he has a legitimate chance at beating Roman Reigns this weekend, or this weekend. It's this Friday at Super Showdown. Honestly, I really sincerely hope that Roman Reigns defeats Shane McMahon in a way that Shane gets stretchered out of the ring and we don't see him for months. I'm just done with Shane. And whoever thinks Shane McMahon is really great on the mic is wrong. It's just wrong. Shane is good when he has someone to play off of, like have some dynamic banter with. That's why he and The Miz worked so well together, because they did have chemistry. Now, Shane is supposed to be the heel and carry all the promos. It's just not working. Just not working. Let's see here. Reigns versus McIntyre at Stomping Grounds equals Survivor Series. This is Webby saying this. Reigns versus McIntyre at Stomping Grounds equals Survivor Series rules out of the window. Which is true, right? Because I guess the wild card does apply to pay-per-views. I don't understand. It just because Roman is still on SmackDown and Drew is on Raw. But you see now we've kind of lost track of all of this with the wild card rule. Now it's sort of like, oh, Roman's on the show on both shows every week regardless. It doesn't matter, right? God, I hate the wild card rule. I want to say hello to Bobarooski, CM Phil, and Shane McMahon, who are in the chat tonight. Shane McMahon. We get a shot of Lance Armstrong and Matthew McConaughey in the audience with a bunch of kids. McConaughey is wearing a fantastic shirt. I think Renee mentioned it, and I have to concur. That was a handsome shirt. Next, we have a Miz TV segment where Seth is the guest. Seth Rollins, of course, Universal Champion. He and Miz talk about the fact that the cash-in is happening tonight, but Seth is skeptical because he doesn't even know if Brock is going to show up, much less cash in. And they start talking about Super Showdown, and then the Titantron cuts to the back where we see a large vehicle arrive, out of which Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar step out of. They start walking towards the ring, but Brock stops before hitting gorilla position, and he turns away, goes down another hallway because it's his rules. He's not ready to go out. Seth was ready for him, though. What a segment. Oh, boy. Talk about another segment. Lucha House Party come to the ring because they have a match. Again, they have a match, but we don't know against who. Kind of like what happened at the last pay-per-view, right? At Money in the Bank, where Lucha House Party had a match, but then Lars Sullivan came out and beat them up. Well, this was the same thing here. The Lucha House Party came out. They had a match scheduled, but instead Lars Sullivan comes out and beats them up. But he didn't entirely beat them up because the Lucha guys used their cohesiveness, their three minds as one, their hive mind, to at least drop kick Lars out of the ring. Not take him out, but drop kick him out of the ring, and that sort of pissed Lars off. Sort of to give the impression that it's not going to be a complete squash match at Super Showdown this weekend. But I got to tell you, this is the question that I have to ask here, and I want to toss this over to you, chat, because sometimes you guys are so wise in the chat. Who's supposed to be wrestling Lucha House Party? Or as they apparently like to be known now as the Lucha Avengers, because they want to, they feel like, I guess they feel like Lars Sullivan is their Thanos, right? So basically, who's been scheduled to fight Lucha House Party and hasn't been happening? Now, if I'm that team, at this point, I'm pissed off. I'm going up to Vince McMahon's door, and I'm knocking on the door, and I'm like, Vince, the hell, man? Twice in a row that we're supposed to go out there and have a match, and it's not happening because of Lars Sullivan. We're not even announced. You don't even put us on the card. People don't even know that they're supposed to have a match, that Lucha House Party is supposed to have a match against us. Vince, what are we supposed to do? Jeez. Anyway, we have the Iconics backstage who are making fun of Nikki Cross, and then Alexa comes in to break it up, and they have some They do some Australian jokes. I use the word jokes lightly. And Alexa starts talking to Nikki, where she's like, I know, you've become good friends with Becky, and I'm sorry I wasn't there for that. And Alexa's like, no, you're my friend. You've been here, and looking after me, even though people weren't looking at, hadn't even noticed I was here. And she reassures Alexa that she's still a friend. And look, this, if there's one thing that we know about Alexa Bliss, is that she is going to shit all over Nikki Cross sooner than later. Poor Nikki. Like, at this point, we just feel bad for Nikki. Nikki's being so beautifully naive right now. We love her to death, but we know what's going to happen. Right? Are we okay with this? I think we're okay with this. We're just gonna wait for it to happen. Yeah, we'll just wait for all of this to happen. I want to say hello to Carlos, who joined the chat, Sports and Things. We have JS Brown, who's in here as well. Robert Larry, who's joined us. There's, a lot of people joining in here. And I know a few of you people are joining, and I thank you for joining now that the Fightful Live podcast is over. And since we're moving on to my second and a half hour here, I'd just like to take a moment to remind you people, not remind you, but to tell you people, announce with great joy and great pleasure the return of the Division podcast, Fightful's podcast on women's wrestling. We'll be returning this weekend. Kristen Ashley's going to take back the helm after a short hiatus. I will be there as a panelist, along with, I think it's Andrew Thompson. There we go. Right? It's Andrew Thompson. Kristen will correct me if it's not Andrew. You can be sure about that. This weekend, Andrew Thompson, who is a news writer for Fightful, we're going to be discussing the past few weeks' events that have surrounded women's wrestling. So it's good. It'll be good to be back. It'll be good to be back in the Division podcast saddle again. So make sure that you guys just jump in. Find us this weekend on the Fightful Podcast Network. That'll be fantastic. So we'll be doing that right now. It's Jeremy. It's Jeremy Lambert. Okay. There we go. And yes, I do think I know where I am. I think. So next we have Becky Lynch, who comes out for a quick segment. Becky runs down. She has a microphone. She starts running down her recent accomplishments. She says that she's never been more content in her entire life, and contentment is not a good thing for a competitive wrestler like her. She says that there's nothing worse here that can happen to a fighter. But when Lacey Evans cost her the SmackDown Women's title against Charlotte, that pissed her off, and being pissed off brings out the best in her, and it also brings out Lacey Evans from the back as well. Lacey comes to the ring, and she says that she refuses to have a woman like Becky Lynch be champion and represent the division. And then Charlotte Flair comes out, wild card rules. And she reminds us that she became a 9-time women's champion. She reminds us that she is halfway to getting to her dad's record, which is a little odd. Not odd, but it's not something that she speaks about very often, but she is halfway there. Lacey calls her a daddy's girl in need for attention, and Lacey punches her. And she punches her with her right hand, right? And the right hand is the woman's right? Isn't that like her finisher? That's her thing. And yeah, she basically She basically, this goes exactly in. She takes a swing at her. She punches her, and she doesn't go down like it's her finisher. But she swung with her right hand. So when is it an actual finisher, and when is it just a punch? And this is what I don't like. This is really what I don't like about punches as finishers. You have a good example right here. Not quite sure what happens, and it either looks stupid or not. Anyway, this was not good, folks. This was not a good match. As much as I was a little aggravated that this had turned out to be like a bit of a dumb match, not a dumb match, but a match that was given to us way too early. I was kind of disappointed. At what happened. Charlotte, like, I really felt that they should have kept this for later down the road. Just to create a compelling story out of Lacey and Charlotte. I thought they had something there. But as things went forward in the match, you're like, no, they really should have waited, because this wasn't good. This wasn't good. It feels like they weren't that they were told very last minute that this was happening, that they didn't have time to prepare anything. There were some moves that were whiffed. This really wasn't. This wasn't good. This was not good. But anyway, the match and the match actually comes to an end when Becky attacks Charlotte to get revenge on Lacey Evans, who cost her the SmackDown title by having her win by disqualification. This was all very confusing to me, and it's a shame. Look, at this point, Charlotte and Lacey don't have chemistry together. It doesn't work. Or, like I said, maybe they just weren't prepared to go after each other. But yeah, you know, it wasn't fantastic. Next, Rey Mysterio comes out to relinquish the title, the U.S. title, because of his very legitimate injury to his shoulder, and he relinquishes it directly to Samoa Joe. Rey says that he has to set the right example for his son, who is training to become a wrestler like his dad, as a man and as a champion. He's going to relinquish the title. Joe comes out, and basically Rey says to him that he's won championships his entire career. He's done it through pain and injury, but tonight he has to do it. He's going to relinquish the title directly to Samoa Joe. That's something you don't see very often. But as Rey leaves the ring, Joe Coquina clutches him because he's such an asshole. He's a terrible, terrible man. So Joe's U.S. champion again, folks. So we'll see where this goes. Bobby Lashley and Braun Strowman had an arm wrestling match tonight to hype up their match at Super Showdown. And you know what? I thought I'd hate this, but I didn't. And you know why I didn't hate it? Because it didn't overstay its welcome. And I think that everything was done here just perfectly, or at least good enough to not be, like I said, it didn't overstay its welcome. Just long enough. Lashley takes some time to set himself up to grab the little post thing. The, what do you call it? The handrest or whatever. He takes his time to do that, and then he actually slaps Braun across the face, which I thought was a nice touch. Braun flips the table, and he's ready to go, but the referee interferes. They start to do the arm wrestling thing, and Lashley's hands slip out, so they go and get some chalk, and I'm like, yeah, can see how this is going to end. So with their hands all nice and chalky, They do the actual arm wrestling. Braun wins, but after Bobby Lashley just tosses chalk into his eyes, and Braun eats a power slam. That's fun. Carmella's backstage and she's looking for R-Truth, who's in the building somewhere, and behind her is sneaky Drake Maverick with EC3 and his solo cup and a ref. Drake is directing traffic like he's an army sergeant. He goes, he's giving cues. He's stalking because he says, "Follow Carmella. That will lead us to R-Truth." Next match we have Nikki Cross versus Peyton Royce. That happens in the ring here. Starts off early with Peyton hitting a spinning heel kick on Nikki Cross. Some stomps in the corner. Nikki gets whipped into the corner. Then Peyton does her patented foot choke. They trade up some roll-up pin attempts, but Peyton does a rope hang stretch on Nikki Cross, which is something she did quite a bit in NXT. Don't remember seeing it all that often since she's been up on main, so that's good to see back. Nikki gets caught in a submission and on the ground, and she's bleeding from the mouth. Something happened. Maybe she just bit her tongue. Nikki fights back with an elbow, some forearms, runs Peyton down with an elbow, and that fires up the crowd. She hits the corner avalanche, running bulldog, covers Peyton, but only gets 2. Top rope cross body follows, but Peyton dodges it, and Nikki just lands face first on the mat. Meanwhile, on the outside, Alexa Bliss, who was with Nikki Cross, forgot to mention, gets some coffee delivered to her. Hand-delivered in lovely little mugs. Peyton is distracted by this. She goes, "What the hell? Coffee? Are you kidding me?" And I don't know why that's such a big deal for Peyton. Has she tried to get coffee delivered to her ringside previously and she was told no? And she's like, "What is this? What is this preferential treatment?" Basically Peyton gets distracted because of all this coffee talk, and she kicks the coffee cup out of Alexa's hand. Alexa slips on the coffee. She falls down, and Billie Kay is out there, and she points and laughs. And her white jeans are stained. That's why she was wearing white clothes, so that the coffee would show up. But as Peyton is done laughing herself at Alexa, she goes back in the ring. But Nikki is waiting for her, and he hits the purge. And that's the match. Nikki Cross with a win over the one half of the tag team champions, women's tag team champions. And after the match, Alexa Bliss, she's pissed. She gets into the ring and she drop kicks Billie Kay for making fun of her because she soiled her pants, basically. So there you have it. It was a fun match. It was fine. I'm just really waiting, ready, willing, and able, excited, looking forward to the Iconics actually winning matches as champions instead of them being positioned as these high-level jobbers. Don't get me wrong, I love the Iconics and I think they're fantastic in their role. I think once in a while, getting a win would be a good idea. Kristen Ashley signing off for the evening. Good night, Kristen. Let's see here. Robert Larry says, "I cannot wait for the ratings for this episode of Monday Night Raw. Can anyone say the 5th lowest non-holiday episode of Monday Night Raw in 2019? We'll see how that goes down." Joe Anthony says, "Nikki's character, I think, is just that of someone who had some issues / screws loose, but all it took was a friend in Alexa to calm her down a bit." It's not a bad theory. Then Shane McMahon says, "But then she does her entrance and gets in the ring and acts all wacky again." So there is that. Yeah, I see. There is that discrepancy between them both. At this point, I took a note here that I wrote down that I thought it was hilarious that that WWE here was trying to create some suspense, by establishing, hey, Brock is here. He was promised he would cash in, but will he do it? And at when will he do it? It doesn't matter at this point. It's like, we know, you've told us that he's going to cash in tonight. We don't care about what quarter hour it happens in. It's been set. The thrill is gone, folks. The thrill is gone. Seth is in the ring right now, and he starts cutting a promo, and Brock's music hits, but Brock doesn't come out. So Seth's fed up, and he challenges Brock to come out right now and cash on him right now. And out comes Baron Corbin instead. Not exactly who we were expecting, and he says we're going to beat Seth Rollins for the Universal title. Seth says he's going to have to pry it from his cold, dead hands. Baron says that's okay because he retired Kurt Angle, and he'll retire you, son, talking to Seth. So then they, of course, go at it. Corbin eats a dive from Seth on the outside. But then Brock's music hits again. That distracts Seth, which allows Corbin to run in and hit the end of days. And then Brock Lesnar comes out, and he has a chair. He low blows Seth. Starts beating the shit out of him with steel chair shots. Very reminiscent of the WrestleMania match, right? German suplexes, Seth. And Heyman is like, now, Brock, now do it. And he's like, briefcase, make it happen. Brock says, not now. Gets Seth on the outside. He hits an F5 on the floor. And as Michael Cole calls it, a bone-crushing F5. He beats up Rollins some more. German suplex. And Heyman is like, are you doing it? Are we cashing in? And Heyman just tells him very calmly, well, not very calmly, he shouts to him, Friday. Oh. That was a hell of a beating. It was a good beating. It was really, really a good beating that Seth took here. Brock just went nuts with the chair. I mean, the chair doesn't bend simply because of a few shots. Like, he was wailing into him, and we saw it. He opened Seth up hard way. There was a bit of blood there. That wasn't planned. But man, that was crazy. That was just nuts. It was a good beating that Seth took. He actually had to do a stretcher job. Went into an ambulance, and they even had Becky Lynch there, real life girlfriend. Not exactly a storyline thing. I think that's always interesting. They let her get into the ambulance as well. Here's my prediction, though, folks. I think that at Super Showdown, Brock Lesnar is cashing in, but he's going to cash in on Kofi. And that'll set up Brock versus Kofi at SummerSlam, with most likely Kofi retaining. Not retaining, but regaining. I think that'd be a fantastic show. It'd be a fantastic story, and would be excellent booking for Kofi. The continuation of the excellent booking of Kofi Kingston, to be perfectly frank, because I think they've been doing a fantastic job with him. Fantastic job. Shane McMahon says Brock should cash in on Seth at the hospital. That is true. He should. Next, we get a very special episode. A very special episode of Firefly Funhouse. Am I right? Bray is there, and he tells us, today I have something super serious to talk to you about. He's like, exercise! And he's wearing a tank top that says Wyatt Gym on it, and he has Zubaz pants with a a waist pouch. Forget what the exact word is, but he's looking like your quintessential 80s wrestler. He puts a headband on, and he introduces us to a new friend called Huskus the Pig Boy. Clearly a reference to his Husky Harris character. Huskus he doesn't take good care of himself. And he's he's eating chocolate. And he says, one day you're going to be great. He tells this to Huskus if he takes care of himself. One day you'll be great. People will even tell you that you have the whole world in your hands. And I posited this theory when the whole Firefly Funhouse started. All the puppets, all the extra characters, they're all representations of Bray's personas, right? Abigail being, the Sister Abigail part, the metaphysics, the weird, the weird mystical side of Bray, cult leader. Mercy the Buzzard is clearly the Waylon Mercy inspired character that he started off with in NXT with the Hawaiian shirts. Ramblin' Rabbit was the part of him towards the end where all he was doing was just talking, rambling, no real sense to his promos. That's essentially what it was. I love that. I really love that. So now we're going to Husky here. But then the kicker here happens. It happens when the door to the funhouse opens and in peeks a devil Vince McMahon. And right then and there, I'm like, oh my God. The memes that we are going to have with this for the next year. And Vince is like, you've got to get your act together or you're... And he's about to say fired, but Bray's like, no. Here, watch. This is what we're going to do. And they do the Muscle Man dance, all right? Well, you've seen it. And if you haven't seen it, I'm not going to stand here and try to describe what it was. It was essentially the things that Vince McMahon just loves about, or at least loved about his 1980s big man wrestlers doing entertainment, dancing and singing. Oh. This was fantastic. This was absolutely fantastic stuff. I was so pleased. And I'm going to remember this edition of the Firefly Funhouse for a very, very, very long time. This was, and it's crazy how each edition has just brought something new. And on Twitter, I wrote, they always get better. It's not that they always necessarily get better. It's just there's always something new about them. There's always something where you're like, did I just see this? Oh, this is fresh. And tonight, tonight, the dance, the dance video, the whole, the song itself, the whole situation, the Vince McMahon doll, that just blew my mind. That just absolutely blew my mind. Jazz Brown, no, I am not showing anyone the Muscle Man dance. You can trust me on that. This was something special. It was something special. And on an evening of Raw where everything was just like sinewy and going back and forth. Oh, that was so good. Look, if you haven't seen it, you have to go out of your way to see it. It's really just as simple as that. Then we had a segment with Triple H and Randy Orton where Triple H and Randy Orton say some stuff to each other, trying to put over the fact that they've had this epic, memorable feud that has lasted for the past 20 years, which isn't exactly the case. And Randy Orton, at some point, the highlight here is when Randy Orton tells Hunter, I'll wait for you in the ring or something like that. If you'll retrieve your balls from Stephanie's purse. Triple H answers him that, his balls are so big, they're a burden, but you wouldn't know that, Randy, because you've never had any balls. And that's your build up to that match for Superstar Super Showdown. Last match of the evening was Ricochet versus Cesaro. I was really, really looking forward to this. But man, this was way too short. Especially since they were building it as a rubber match, Cesaro starts off with some shoulder tackles. He runs the ropes. Ricochet jumps to sort of splash Cesaro, but Cesaro catches him and flips him around in a tilt-a-whirl backbreaker, covers him, but only gets 2. He hits some European uppercuts. He catches Ricochet again, flips him up for a slam, but Ricochet Hurricane Rana is off. Cesaro rolls to the outside. Ricochet runs the barricades. He almost loses his footing, but manages to keep his balance long enough to hit a Hurricane Rana to the floor. And that, friends, is something special, because he was sliding off the barricade. He did not have good footing, and yet he managed to pull off his move nonetheless. Ricochet's on the apron. Then he does his parkour moonsault onto Cesaro. Back from commercial, Ricochet hits the ropes. Sunset flips Cesaro, but Cesaro stays standing. Instead, he picks up Ricochet, who flips over him again, finally getting the sunset flip, covering Cesaro, but only gets 2. Ricochet goes up to the top rope, eats a European uppercut. Then Cesaro does again he superplexes. He's on the second rope and he superplexes Ricochet from the apron, bringing him back into the inside. That's crazy balance, strength. It's such a cool move. That's so cool. Then Ricochet does the re-entry thing that he did last week, with the head scissors, where he handstands on the side of the apron, and then head scissors Cesaro from behind, then crunches his way up. He did that spot last week, but instead of following through with a Hurricane Rana, Cesaro blocks it, and he does the Cesaro swing instead. Some near falls occur that ends with Ricochet satelliting some over Ricochet, but doesn't quite get the move that he was intending. It was just a little off. Let's put it that way. But he does end up getting a crucifix pin on Cesaro for the win. So the rubber match is Ricochet who got it. But it was too short. And many things that we saw last week on their last match. So not equally as impressive either. But too quick. Honestly, much too quick. After the match, Cesaro just waylays Ricochet. He goes to the outside. He goes under the ring. Pulls out a ladder. And I'm like, oh, what is he going to do with this? And he puts it back in. What a dick. And he keeps looking around. And he pulls out a table instead of, oh, what is he going to do with this? He pulls the table out. And lying flat against the table as he's dragging it out is R-Truth. And now was R-Truth just standing still, like, sort of looking. And I thought that was absolutely perfect. I really did think that was perfect. Ricochet takes out Cesaro then, just as a measure of revenge, as the C team runs in to try and pin R-Truth. They're all schmozzing on the outside, and Cedric Alexander does something on a Raw, and he actually Tope con Hilos onto the massive bodies on the outside, but R-Truth manages to avoid it. He runs into the ring and he's smiling. He's, ha ha ha, gotcha. But he turns around and Drake Maverick is there. Drake Maverick is ready to throw fisticuffs to get at it. But instead he eats a Carmella super kick. He falls and his flyers are all over. They scatter all over the air. And Truth and Carmella flee. Everyone runs after him. This was a fun way to use the 24/7 title. I'm okay with it. And I'm sure by now you saw the golf course. Well, they actually showed it on Raw tonight, but this weekend, the golf course thing that they did on social media, that's exactly the kind of stuff that they have to do with this title. That's what it's for. R-Truth hidden under the ring. Look, his character is so ridiculous. Yeah, it just works. It's just like, of course he's under the ring, and his facial expressions were perfect. That was fun. That was a lot of fun. And, well, Raw came to an end with Undertaker coming out. And barely not getting his all of his promo in before 11 o'clock. Then it was Undertaker just saying, Goldberg, I'm gonna beat you. That's that. I mean, it's always, Undertaker coming to the ring, being Undertaker is, yes, I get it. It's an event. It's an attraction, right? As some people might say. It's an attraction. But I mean, there's also a level of it that's very, very old hat. That's just something, it's just something that happens now. Oh well, that's how it ended. And apparently Goldberg is going to be on SmackDown tomorrow. So we'll see what kind of stuff happens there. Right? Goldberg on SmackDown for the first time, we're being told. Oh boy, it's exciting stuff. Well, there you have it, folks. That was Monday Night Raw. Aside from Firefly Funhouse, tonight's episode of Firefly Funhouse, there wasn't really anything to this. I had a good opening match, though. I thought it was fine. It was okay. But man, oh man, oh man. It's a go-home show, and it felt like a go-home show. And it just drains me a bit more because it's a go-home show for a show that I'm not going to watch. So, can't wait for it to be done. Let's put it that way. Well, folks, I am done. I'm done here this evening. I want to thank you all for joining us live here in the chat. All of you who popped in this evening to join me here live on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. Or if you're listening on demand or on your podcast app, thank you as well. That's fantastic. Be sure to join me tomorrow for my SmackDown Live recap show, Tuesday, 10:30 p.m. right here on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. And I'll just thank you again one more time for coming out. And I'll see you next time.